When it comes to Elite Dangerous Odyssey, there's been a lot of talk about ship interiors and support for VR. Now today, Frontier finally addressed these questions and confirmed that ship interiors will not be in Odyssey at launch. Virtual reality, however, will be in, but with some limitations. There's also some other details, so let's jump in and take a look. Two of the recent biggest questions about Odyssey have now been addressed. The first one, VR, has been a concern ever since Frontier stated over a month ago that it won't be a part of Odyssey at launch. Frontier have now changed their stance on that and created a compromise. The way this will work is as follows. Players using the Odyssey client in VR mode will be able to play in a regular virtual reality whilst inside their ship and inside their SRV. However, when they transition to on-foot gameplay, the VR headset will switch out to a 2D projection mode. For those of you without VR experience, 2D projection mode is essentially a virtual monitor screen placed in front of your vision whilst inside the VR headset. At this point, players will then have the option to play the on-foot sections in a 2D mode from within the VR headset, or alternatively remove the headset and continue on screen. The reason for this is pretty much as I discussed in a previous video on the subject. Frontier do not want to create an on-foot VR section without being in a position to do it very well. And on-foot VR is notoriously difficult to achieve, unless you're happy with a very basic standard, I guess. Now, whilst something like No Man's Sky VR works very well, don't get me wrong. In fact, I actually think No Man's Sky VR is a great implementation. It works very well for the style of game that No Man's Sky is. At the same time though, it's no insult to point out that it is nonetheless far away from the standards set by Half-Life Alyx. Now whilst some might say that it's unreasonable to expect Frontier to implement VR to the standards of Alyx, it's still entirely reasonable to want something more than what we have or what's available in No Man's Sky. So ultimately then, it really depends on where Frontier want to join that spectrum on VR experiences. Everyone is certainly going to have a different opinion on that. For me, I want the best VR experience possible. For others, they will quite rightly be happy to settle with less in order to gain VR access. At any rate, VR is now definitely going to be a thing with Odyssey, and that's very good news indeed. Moving on to ship interiors, in an interview last month, Polygon reported that ship interiors were not going to be a thing for launch. This naturally caused quite a stir, all the more so because Frontier themselves hadn't mentioned it. I did reach out to Frontier at the time, who had a response of no comment, but more info later. I also reached out to Polygon, who confirmed to me that, as far as they were concerned, they reported the story accurately. Today, Frontier did indeed confirm that ship interiors are not going to be a part of Odyssey at launch, and this is what Frontier had to say about that. We understand that the bond between Commander and Starship is incredibly strong, and know that this will be disappointing news for some. However, we believe it is right to invest our development time in locations and features which offer the most meaningful experience and gameplay for all players. So this is certainly disappointing news. Ship interiors is one of the things I know I've been looking forward to the most, and I think a lot of people others as well, although there's still the question about what gameplay it would actually bring. But either way, it also means things such as shipboarding will not be possible. Frontier go on to say, "Rest assured that Odyssey will offer a great variety of long-requested locations to explore, both on land and in space, which we'll be sharing more details around very soon." Now, the in-space locations are a very interesting thing in terms of possibilities. In the same post, Frontier confirmed that it will be possible to visit space stations on foot. Unfortunately, there's no more details on what will be possible in space stations, but it's nice to know that they will be a thing. So overall then, it looks like there's going to be some more for Frontier to discuss about Odyssey at some point. Station interiors and other areas in space. Does that potentially even mean EVA? EVA is something I definitely want to see at some point. Anyway, moving on to another subject, Frontier also issued their latest financial statement this week, and that gives us some information on Frontier itself, as well as a little few details on Elite Dangerous. So in terms of the financial information, Frontier's revenue for the financial year 2020, Frontier's financial year runs from June to June, was £76 million. Their operating profits were £16.6 million. Their total on-hand cash now sits at £45.8 million, so quite some significant money there now. The report also confirms that this year, after the launch of Fleet Carriers, Elite hit its highest ever player numbers. Additionally, Elite Dangerous sold 3.5 million copies of the base game in the 12 months leading up to June 2020. That then brings us to the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.